What's up, you guys? Welcome back to the channel. For those of you who are new, my name is Evan and I make videos about hot stocks, dividends, and options. So if that interests you guys, make sure you subscribe and hit the notification bell so you never miss when I upload. Now in this video, we're going to go over why NIO and a couple other EV stocks have actually been down today and the last few days especially. And we're also going to go over some news about the potential delisting of some of these Chinese EV stocks and whether they could actually be delisted in the future. But before we jump into the video, if you guys wouldn't mind going down and hitting the like button, I would really appreciate it, and it really helps out the channel and it lets me know that you guys enjoy these updates every weekday. But with that out of the way, you can see that NIO is down almost 6% on the day, and they haven't really had any hope of going into the green today. It's been a pretty red day all day, and we're going to go over why this is the case and why a couple other EV stocks are actually down as well. But looking at the 1 week chart, NIO is down almost 18% at 17.4% in the red. And it's been a pretty red week all week as well, not just today. And a lot of this red that you see for NIO and these other EV stocks is due in part to these delisting rumors, where NIO and some other EV stocks from China could potentially be delisted in the future. But that news came out right around here, and we saw NIO drop down a couple dollars. It wasn't too bad, and then they leveled off. And then there was more news that came out about the potential delisting, and NIO dropped even more, and then they just continued dropping. Now yesterday we did see NIO recover pretty nicely, and now they're trading pretty flat today as well. But the majority of the red that you see here and these red days that we've been seeing lately is mostly due to the fact that investors are panicking and they think that NIO and these other EV stocks could be delisted. But looking at SPY today, you can see that they're not really up or down. They did have some pretty big spikes up, but then they pulled back down. And so right now they're looking pretty neutral, and they're probably not going to end the day in the red or the green too much. But on the 1 week, SPY is up 0.7%, and this is kind of the opposite of what NIO's been doing. Now we know that NIO kind of has a mind of their own, and they don't necessarily follow the markets too closely, but this kind of shows you that NIO has some kind of other catalyst pushing their price down. And that has a lot to do with the delisting, and there's also some other news that came out for Xpeng that we're going to go over now. So the news that came out for Xpeng also affected NIO today, and this news was that there was a Wall Street analyst that cut his bank's rating on Xpeng, and this was following a recent rally that we've seen from Xpeng, NIO, and Li Auto. On Wednesday, after the markets closed, UBS analyst Paul Gong actually cut his rating from Xpeng, and he reduced it from a buy down to a neutral. And although he did bring his rating down to a neutral, he did raise his price target to $59, which was previously $25. So there was some light at the end of the tunnel to see him actually raise his price target up to $59. But again, he did cut it from a buy to a neutral, which ended up hurting Xpeng and NIO today. Now, he wrote that he believes Xpeng is leading China's race to self-driving vehicles, but he thinks that investors more or less already recognize this. And he thinks that they recognize this after we've seen Xpeng shoot up around 200%. And he also noted that NIO has also made recent progress towards autonomous driving, but he thinks that Xpeng is going to remain the leader in terms of self-driving over in China. Now, this Paul Gong analyst, he's always been pretty bearish on NIO, and he's always kind of thought that Xpeng is going to be the leader in terms of self-driving over in China. And so it's really not surprising to see him reacting this way to both of these stocks. Given the fact that he's always been kind of bearish on NIO, it's not surprising to see him do the same thing to Xpeng and decrease his rating from a buy to a neutral. But here you can see that it says he's always been a pretty skeptical guy when it comes to NIO, and in fact, he was an outright bear earlier in 2020. Now it says that he had a change of heart in August, raising his rating to a neutral from a sell for NIO. And this was after NIO's sales recovered and their gross margin improved for their second quarter report. But you would think with third quarter earnings coming out and they were better than they were expected to be, you would think an analyst like this would see the potential in NIO, but yet he's still being very bearish on both NIO and Xpeng. But because of his downgrade on Xpeng, it really did affect Xpeng, NIO, and I think it also affected Li Auto today. But now in terms of the delisting that could happen for NIO, Xpeng, and Li Auto in the future, This is also a big factor that has been influencing the price of all three of these stocks lately. It says here that the House of Representatives on Wednesday unanimously passed a bill that sets the stage for delisting Chinese companies on U.S. exchanges, including electric vehicle makers such as Xpeng and Li Auto. Now, the reason why they didn't list NIO here is because NIO actually thinks that they're in compliance with the new law, and this is according to a spokeswoman from NIO. But the basic overview of this new law is that all foreign companies with U.S. stock listings have to comply with U.S. audit oversight rules within a 3-year window. And so even if these companies right now like Li Auto and Xpeng were to get delisted in the future, they still have 3 years to be in compliance with this new law and get their ducks in a row before they're delisted from U.S. exchanges. But like I mentioned, these stocks are being pretty influenced by this delisting news, and they've been reacting pretty negatively because it says here that all 3 US listed Chinese EV stocks reacted in after-hours trading Wednesday, and they all moved lower by 1 to 3%, and then those losses carried over into today as well. Now, it was also due to that Xpeng analyst that dropped their rating from a buy to a neutral, but when you combine both of these things, the delisting news and then the Xpeng drop for their rating, obviously we're going to see these Chinese EV stocks kind of react the same way because they're all basically in the same boat, because a lot of these investors that own NIO or Xpeng, not only do they own those two, but they probably own all three, including Li Auto. So when something affects one of these stocks pretty greatly, we see the other stocks kind of follow in suit as well. And then it says here that shares fell a little bit farther on Thursday, which we already know because we saw NIO and they've been in the red pretty much all day today. But it says NIO fell down 2.5%, Xpeng was down 4.3%, and Li Auto was down 4%. So again, each one of these stocks kind of influences the other ones as well when there's big news that comes out for one of these stocks. But one good thing to hear is that NIO believes that they are compliant with this new law, and apparently this appears to be the situation. And NIO's spokeswoman said in an emailed statement that NIO was aware of the situation and became compliant over the past few months. Now, representatives from Xpeng and Li Auto haven't returned a request for comment, so that kind of leads you to think that they probably aren't compliant right now, but they still have a few years to become compliant before they are delisted. So the big thing about this is that they have a few years to become compliant if they aren't right now. So that almost should tell you that these investors shouldn't be panic selling. Even though news like this comes out, it wouldn't be effective for a few years into the future. So there really should be no reason as to why people panic sold NIO and Xpeng shares recently, because this wouldn't even go into effect for a few years. But most of the research analysts covering the 3 US listed Chinese stocks, Li Auto, NIO, and Xpeng, they're based in Hong Kong or China, and they haven't been writing about the issue yet. Investors could possibly expect some updates in the coming days, which means we could hear about Xpeng and Li Auto and whether they're currently compliant and whether they plan to become compliant in the next few years. Now, there's people arguing that there shouldn't be regulations for companies outside the US if they're on US exchanges, and the counter argument is that Chinese exchanges should be able to kick US companies off their exchanges as well, and whether they want to do that or not, that's kind of up to them. But at least in the US, we can't have investors investing in companies like Luckin Coffee and losing out on their savings or their retirement if they depended on that stock. And so that's the reason why we're putting in these regulations so things like Luckin Coffee don't happen again. Now, it could be a big overstep, but it's something that's necessary so people don't lose a lot of money. Now, for those of you who made it this far into the video, I want to know if you guys are still loading up on NIO shares because they're in the red right now. Now, I know a lot of people are probably thinking NIO is going to continue dropping, but I think these are the days to add more shares to your portfolio. You don't want to add when the stock is at its all-time high and then it just drops. You want to add when the stock is in the red, because at that point, the stock is probably going to go up if it's been red for a while. Now, obviously, it's hard to say with NIO because they are pretty overvalued right now. But again, they're going to trade for what people think they're worth. And so if investors think they're worth less money because of this potential delisting, even though NIO probably won't be affected, well, then people are going to be paying less per share and we're going to see NIO drop by quite a bit. But again, let me know what you guys are doing down in the comments and if you're still adding shares to your portfolio right now. Lastly, if you guys haven't signed up for Webull, make sure you guys sign up using the link in the description. When you sign up and deposit $100, you get 4 free stocks now. Also, if you guys enjoyed the video, make sure you leave a like because it really does help out the channel. And with that said, thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you back here in the next one.